to start with, I just want to, unpack a little bit this loaded title. I think for, all of you out there, that there is no way that you can actually share a formula for success in an hour around how to become successful as an entrepreneur. But we will touch on, what is important in this space, what are the qualities that are fundamental for us to make it if we decide to actually become entrepreneurs, and also a couple of things that I wanted to say before I move on. I talk about succeeding, and I think one of the takeaways that I would love for each one of you today to think of is, what does success mean to you? I think a lot of times we find that we get into a role or we start a business without necessarily actually thinking, why is it that we're doing that? And success is about fulfillment. And so it's so important before you embark on this journey, specifically because the entrepreneurial journey is full of challenges, that you actually define what success is for you. What makes you feel fulfilled? Is it really to go down the route of entrepreneurship and starting a business and growing it? Or is it something else? Because truly, success is subjective, and each of us needs to really understand what it is that is fulfilling to them. And for some women, it's fulfilling to raise your children, which is one of the most beautiful and probably challenging things that one can do. And so, we don't want to be on this hamster wheel just for the sake of it without really feeling fulfillment. And the other thing is, talking about women specifically, and I'll tell you why do we do that. So what are we going to go through today? We're going to talk a little bit about me, and I do feel that I'm an unconventional entrepreneur because nothing in my life prior to becoming an entrepreneur was preparing me to that, or rather starting my career was preparing me to that. Speaking about female founders, and why am I so hung up on that? Why do I talk about women far more than speaking about entrepreneurship in general? We're going to talk about what makes a great entrepreneur. We're going to speak about the challenges a little bit and that Pandora's box when it comes to us women. And then we navigate a little bit the space of challenges and see really like the light at the end of the tunnel, because, just as much as there are challenges, there are also excitements in this space. So I'll share with you a little bit about my story, and I'm not doing it just for the sake of, telling you my background, but actually because I think that it will be relatable to so many women who are with me tonight. And before I go into my story, I just want to say that tonight is not about sexy graphs and statistics and frameworks and tools, because all of that can be done. And, you just need to Google and YouTube and you'll get the frameworks. And actually, I do that quite a bit, or I share part of that in the F-Force Business Guide course, which is the course that I actually conduct, which I'll tell you a little bit more about. But today is about talking about real experience around things that you don't necessarily talk about unless you are with entrepreneurs that have gone through this journey, and really sharing some of that with you. So to give you a little bit of background, I see hands raised, but I'm assuming Andra is taking care of all of these questions and whatever is happening. So let's talk a little bit about my background. I'm Algerian. I was born and brought up there, and I left when I was 10 years old. And I lived most of my life in the UAE and in Beirut, and was brought up in a middle-class home. And after finishing my high school, I did not get a chance to go to university for circumstances, and had to go straight to work. So actually, my first job was when I was 18, and it was a salesperson in a beauty store. My next job was at a clinic in Dubai. So I was, doing admin work. And then the third job, which was this pivotal role in my life, was when I joined an investment company as one of the first 10 employees. And I was the junior most person. I was doing everything in that space, from answering phone calls to printing memos and everything in between. But what had happened is that the environment and the culture was quite, exciting from a career perspective. And it was one where they saw the potential of someone, they would push him. And what I had done during that period is became known as the person who just gets shit done, the person who gets things done. And so, was able to work with a lot of people, and so quickly moved from the admin space into the events side of things. And then from there, I moved into communications and brand building. And that was a 15-year career of me moving from one thing to the other. And whilst it was large, because we went from 10 people into one of the largest investment companies in the world, it was always entrepreneurial, and it was always, growing fast. And that truly, I think, instilled of me a lot of the entrepreneurial skills and mindset that I have today. During that time, I think in my third year or so, I put myself through university whilst working. And did a degree with the London School of Economics. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it was not a conventional story of going to university and being ready and, doing the internships and knowing what I wanted to do in life. I was not. And also, I wanted to focus on my career. I wanted to grow. I wanted to do well, but I didn't know where I was headed. And I didn't ever think that I was going to start a business. So fast forward, left that business, had done very well there. And then this idea of the modist, and some of you probably are aware of it, came to my mind. So I felt that I had fulfilled everything in that space. And there was this frustrating experience that I was going through together with women in my family and my mother. We're modest dressers, so we dress in a demure way. I don't show too much skin when I dress. It's a style preference for me. My mother wears the headscarf, and so to her, it's a religious choice. And I knew so many women who were diverse who dressed this way, and yet there was not anyone who was serving them. And so to me, that was a problem that was clear, needed to be addressed. And that is how I started The Modist. I started it with the idea to get into luxury fashion space and to offer this woman an experience that is, smooth and that is curated and that makes her life when it comes to shopping very easy. But I also did it in a way that had a lot of value for this woman who felt that she was excluded from the space of fashion. And we built this beautiful community of women who connected with us at a value level and who loved The Modist and who saw it as a brand more than just a destination for shopping. Excuse me. And so The Modist started, and the idea that I had was validated by the fact that this woman was global. We launched in 2017 on International Women's Day, and it really was, global in terms of interest. 35% of our market was American Western women who loved the curation of modesty. So we really broke a lot of stereotypes that modesty is quite global. And we did it in a way that made this woman feel proud that she made a choice, and she, she's seeing someone represented in a beautiful way. I raised a lot of money during The Modist. I raised $40 million, which is a huge amount of money for a female founder who had never raised a dime before. So I had no experience about fundraising before The Modist. And on our third year, which was a pivotal year for us, our largest investor got impacted by COVID. They were basically putting the largest check in the business in this fundraising round. And because they were impacted, they pulled out and the business had to close. So what I can tell you is that that experience of failure, and I use the word failure deliberately because I am very passionate about normalizing this whole concept of failure. And we need to talk about it, and we will touch on it a little bit later, but it's important that it does not become this monster that haunts us and paralyzes us from doing things. But I can tell you that I tasted it in all its glory. I was on the cover of Forbes magazine 3 months prior as one of the most celebrated retail business amongst 20 giants in the region. And 3 months later, the business had to close. So, you know, what I would say is, I think the way I didn't have a plan on how to deal with failure, but what I did was what I knew how to do best, which is I was open about it. I went on social media, which I was not very big big on in terms of engaging on social media. And I thanked everyone who was supportive, because our community that we built just was the biggest supporter to us. And we'll touch on that a little bit, and the importance of community. But thanked everyone. And at that point, all I could do was to offer help to women and to entrepreneurs who were going through a difficult period during COVID time, and share my learnings, because I had gone through so much learnings. And I think that was just an organic and, a response from me that I didn't cleverly think about. But what it did to me is that it made that experience okay. It gave it meaning and it gave it purpose. And now I hadn't just failed, now I'm actually helping others. And so another takeaway that I would give you is that if you are planning to become an entrepreneur and start this journey, or if you are in this journey, please understand that failure is part of the process. There is no success without going through these glitches and these setbacks. And it doesn't mean that you close the business, but it means that there is constantly, the step back and then the steps forward. And what you need to keep in mind is that, that's the biggest learning that you get it from these experiences. And that what's important is that you're not failing due to the same mistake again. And so fast forward a year and a half, my co-founder now and I are relaunching The Modest in a new business with new investors, taking in all the learnings. And I can assure you, there's a whole, every part of the module of the F-Force business guide includes learnings from this experience and from my past experiences. And it's going to be live after Eid. We've announced it, and it's coming actually with a whole other part of it that's in the blockchain. So it's launching its NFT collection for the community that we had harnessed. And F-Force itself, which is part of what I'm doing now, is actually the platform I wish I had when I was starting a business. It's, where I want to impart knowledge that I also, navigated so much and spent so much time trying to capture back in the day, and a space where we will have a community of amazing women, just like the women that are joining us today. And we'll speak about that also later. So, why is it that I am hung up on this whole women thing? Because one of us has to do it, and more seriously, because as women we have a set of challenges that are different from men, our counterparts. Some of them are, some of these challenges have nothing to do with the, a deliberate action from the counterparts. It's just, if you're building an ecosystem, and men have built the ecosystem of entrepreneurship and the workplace and so on, if you build it and you're not a woman, you're not building it for a woman. And so naturally that creates a whole set of challenges. But also, as women, there is so much. There are challenges around raising capital. There are, challenges around conditioning in society. There are challenges around us just biologically having to, give birth, having to raise children, and all of that stuff that has, its own impact on our journey. And so that's where, we want to touch on a little bit. And that's why I like to focus, at least in my work, on women in particular. And I know that, as a woman, you can relate, and you can connect on these issues. Right. So let's start a little bit with, the meat of today. I'm keeping an eye on the clock. So if you see me looking that way, it's for that. So let's talk about what makes a great entrepreneur. And here I'm not going to talk to you about the technical skills or about, what it is that, the tools again, and building a team and the great idea. This is not about that. This is about other fundamentals that are, without which you can have all the skills in the world, but it won't work. Mindset. I think mindset, without a question, is the most important aspect of being an entrepreneur. And that can be broken down to so many different pieces, and I'll share that with you. If you don't have a winning mindset, there's no way you can make it, because in general, and without being pessimistic about it, the odds are against you. When you start a business, a lot of people try to convince you not to do it. You don't have a lot of resources. You're working with a lot of uncertainty. It's hard for you to bring the right talent at the beginning. So there is the right access to funding. There's so much that is going on there that if you don't have that winning mindset of, I can achieve anything that I put my mind to, then it's impossible for you to keep going. So that is super important. Being a problem solver, because being an entrepreneur from morning to night, and I can tell you that, and I think any entrepreneur here can confirm, is all about firefighting. You're just putting off fires all the time. And so your ability to problem solve is so important as an entrepreneur. And that's part of your mindset as well. The other thing is optimism. Yes, we all need a dash of realism, but you have to be optimistic, and you have to have an optimistic culture as an entrepreneur. We don't need to go through the statistics, but a large number of startups actually fail. So those that make it are, a small subset of everyone that tries. And then those that actually make it big is even a fraction of that. And so it's important to have that positive mindset to keep going. And then another thing under mindset is to have a growth mindset. And here I just want to pause a little bit. What happens with entrepreneurship is that you are challenged all the time. You are pushed outside your comfort zone all the time. And one of the things that you need to do, and this is something we discuss in the course, is to shift your mindset into being comfortable and sometimes actually driven by this growth, by the discomfort. And the way that that happens is when you start seeing the person that you are today versus the person that you were 6 months ago. I'll give you an example. The person that I am today is someone who understands the crypto space, who understands the NFT space, and I'm giving advice now for women who want to be in that space, for people who want to get into that space. 9 months ago, I did not know this space, and by no means am I an expert whatsoever, but this space is new and everybody's learning. And so was it challenging? Absolutely. Was it exhausting? If my co-founder is on this chat or on this webinar, she can attest to the fact that it is grueling to navigate a space that is so new. But who I am today is what excites me about the challenges. And it's not to say that it's, wonderful when you're going through it. Of course, it's uncomfortable, but that's the mindset that you need to get to. Being passionate about the pursuit. And this is another takeaway that I would love for you to note and to bear in mind. If your sole excitement and drive comes from the ultimate goal that you want to achieve, whether it's financial, whether it's whatever that may be, then it's going to be almost impossible for you to have that tenacity and to have that persistence. Because if you don't enjoy what happens during the process, if the journey does not excite you and drive you, that growth, evolving as a person, building a culture, building a team, seeing people grow, then it really is almost impossible for you to be able to continue, because times will be hard and because you will hit some walls and there will be roadblocks. And what will be, your driver and your fuel is the fact that it's that journey that brings you joy. And of course, there are celebrations along the way. And of course, we need to have goals, but that passion for pursuit is crucial. And then the two things that are consistent across every single person who achieved success in their lives is discipline and consistency. And these are things that just happen deliberately by you making the decision to do it. And guys, it's painful. It's painful to get up early in the morning and to meditate and to, get into the office early and to go to the gym and to, exercise your body and your mind because you want to be optimal in the way that you face the day. But discipline and consistency is exactly that, because motivation is fleeting. People ask, how do you stay motivated, whether you're an athlete or whether you're an entrepreneur? Truth is, you don't. Motivation is good when it comes to giving you that first step. It gives you that kick. We all want that. We all love that surge of emotion where, okay, I'm going to do it. And what needs to happen is when you feel that, just do it. Because if you wait, again, you're going to go back in that comfortable place where no magic happens and nothing shifts. So the good thing about motivation is that it kind of gives you that boost of taking the first step, doing something new, venturing into a territory that is not familiar, but it doesn't last. And that's why discipline and consistency needs to come in. The point before last here is your why. And I know that, we've heard it a lot and sometimes it sounds mushy and soft and all of that, but I think that it is so important in your core for you as a person, for your team, for your culture, to have a very strong reason to do what you do. This is what inspires people to be with you. This is what inspires team members to actually join your firm. This is, the point at which, you sit and you look at the impact that you had and you feel fulfilled. And I'm going to give you a little story about the modest here. And I hope we're all doing good and we are hanging in there. I'm seeing 92 people, so that's wonderful. I'll tell you a little story about the why in the context of the modest. So I've shared with you guys that, for the modest, it started with this frustrating experience. But it didn't actually stop there, because the more that I was doing research and I was, planning, putting my business plan together and validating the markets, the more that I could see that this woman, not only was she excluded from fashion, but she was so stereotyped. And we're talking about 2016. And that was a time when any hijabi woman, and yes, we address diversity of women, but any woman with a hijab was associated in the media to terrorism, to radical Islam. There was nothing pleasant about that woman. There was no positive association. And that actually got to me. And it, my mother wears the hijab when we traveled to Europe. And I'm sure many of you guys have had this experience. So to me, this business had a bigger purpose. And that purpose became one of our missions, which is breaking stereotypes. Yes, there is one side to the story, but there is a far wider audience of women who actually dress modestly because they made that choice. And because, this is the lifestyle that they want to live. They are scientists and they are ambassadors and they are teachers and they are doing incredible things in their lives. And guess what? They also love fashion and are very stylish. And when we did that, what happened is a number of things. Everyone in the business actually connected with that reason because everybody could see that. They saw it. Number two, it was driving everything that we did. I'll give you an example. If our stylist and creative director was in a studio styling a model, she wouldn't just put anything on her. She would think about this woman. So it humanized our brand. And also, what happened more importantly is that when we closed the business, because of the way we were so authentic about the why of the business, that community stuck with us. And that community is the sole reason why we are back today. Yes, we were going to come back, maybe in a different form, maybe doing something else. But because that community stayed loyal over a year and a half, 2 years of us closing, and because of what they shared with us in terms of how they connected with us and the impact we had on them, we came back. And so don't underestimate your why, and your why needs to be yours. Whether it is that you're doing it because you want your children to be proud of you and you want to be a role model to them, whether you're doing it because there's certain financial gain that will help you achieve certain things, define your way, your why. That's another takeaway. Define your why and go for it, but be honest with what it is and try and infiltrate that into your culture and your business. And the last thing is, and this is something that's, a little unpopular, but you can have the most amazing idea. Ideas are by the dozen. It will mean nothing if execution is not great. And execution is a whole, part of a module that I speak about, because it's so easy to talk the talk. But when it comes to doing things and when it comes to getting your team to do things, it's a whole other beast. And you can have a very mediocre idea, or let's call it mediocre. Let's not take it far. But you can have a mediocre idea, but if your execution is incredible, if you tell the story in an exciting way, if you address your customer in the right way, if you are fast and agile and you kind of move with the market, then you are going to actually overperform against someone who probably has a far more exciting idea, but is not necessarily being executed on. And so let's move to, the cherry on top versus the fundamentals. And here, I don't mean that it's icing on the cake only. I mean that this, if you have, is just going to take your potential success as an entrepreneur to the next level. So a co-founder. So I've tried starting a business on my own with a big senior team of experts who had equity in my business. So they had shares in my business. And that was the first version. And then I tried now, which is my current business, to have a co-founder. And I can tell you that if you are lucky enough to find someone with whom you are compatible and you share values, similar values, and you are complementary in your skills, then you have hit one of the jackpots in startups. Because what happens is nobody actually takes the burden and shares the burden with you like a co-founder who's got equal skin in the game and who has the same values as you and who wants to achieve the same goal that you want to achieve. It doesn't matter what team members you bring on board, doesn't matter the equity you give them. When it's a co-founder, it's a different story. And it's like a marriage relationship. You have to communicate and you have to get to know each other's styles, and you have to, sometimes there are compromises, but, and there needs to be respect. But if you find this, then go for it, because there is a level of drive that comes with having someone else also push with you. And there's a level of accountability that keeps you going. That is just incredible. And then something that I had touched on a little bit earlier is to cut through the noise. So what is really important in starting a business and as an entrepreneur is to find your edge, find your blue ocean. Whether it is that you're looking at a niche and a constituency of customers that you have not necessarily spoken to in the past or have not been addressed by other startups, or you're doing it in a different way, but do try to cut through the noise. There is so much going on in this space. There are competitors, everyone is starting a business every day. So always think about how can you do it differently. And sometimes doing it differently, it's just you. It's your DNA, it's your personality, it's your character. Sometimes that is it. But as long as you bring something different to the table in order to cut through the noise to make your journey a little bit easier. And then the last or before last point that I want to say is the support system. And this I again also speak about in F-Force, in our business guide, but also is something that is so crucial. Support system can be your partner at home. Your support system can also be, a group of founders. And I can tell you that one of the most impactful interactions that I have had and I continue to have is actually to be part of founders group, because the journey is similar. You exchange knowledge, and you know that you are sane in a journey that sometimes might make you feel like you're so in your head, and am I the only person experiencing these things? And so whether it's part of a community of like-minded women who are also in this space, founders, your support at home, friends, whatever that is, a mentor. And I cannot emphasize enough the impact of a mentor on me personally. I've had my mentor for over 20 years, and I have been very, very fortunate to have had, an amazing mentor who had done things ahead of me, who I look up to, and who can very objectively tell me when I am messing about and I need to get my act together, and also when I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And with mentorships, I want to just give you guys a couple of pointers. I know that, and one of the questions that I get often on social media is, how do I find a mentor? And there is no easy answer. But what I can tell you is that, there are ways. You can find someone who you find as, inspiring, or someone who has an experience that's relevant to you, and you can, try to reach out to them and see, with your luck, if they have the ability to do that. I think there's also a way to access communities of mentors through certain entities that work with entrepreneurs. I remember there are like entities like Endeavor, like Ashoka, like Mowgli, like some incubators in our region. So there are definitely some pockets. If you do a bit of research, then you will definitely find some of those, until you find your ideal mentor. And then the last thing is, you can do everything that you're supposed to do. There is always an element of grace from God, from the creator, from the universe, that actually happens when things go right. And that is manifested often in perfect timing, in certain incidents or events that happen that catapult your business, in introductions that are made, in people that join you that really help you shift the needle in your business. But there's always that, that element. It's not to discredit effort, because there's nothing that works without all the ingredients we've spoken about. But certainly, that element of, call it fortune and grace, is relevant. And so I'm going to start moving through these a little bit faster, but the challenges that we face, there is an important one that I want to talk about, which is the fear of failure and fear of judgment. And I have touched on this a little bit, but this fear is probably one of the most crippling things, not only for entrepreneurs to start a business, but sometimes to pivot, to grow, to take funding in, to hire a senior person. So it's not just about starting the business, but every time we find ourselves against a big decision or something that is pivotal or impactful, something that will impact our risk, there is that crippling fear of failure, and is very linked to judgment, because we're often thinking, okay, what if I do it and I fail? And what are people going to think about me? And I've spoken to you about failure, so I've done that bit there. But what I can tell you is that there is a little technique, and it's a silly technique, but it works for me, that I want to share with you when it comes to being kind of paralyzed, even if it's something as simple, and this is something I experienced, as simple as public speaking. Because believe it or not, many years ago, I would be terrified to actually have a conversation like this, or posting a video of me speaking on social media, which took me probably a year to do the first one. And then after taking the first one, judging myself and ripping myself to pieces. And why am I sounding like this? And why am I sounding silly? And who's going to benefit from that? We all do it. We all do it. But here's the little technique. I basically think to myself or visualize myself as an 80-year-old Ghazlan who is now old and wise, does not care about anybody's judgment, has seen it all in life. I don't care about what people think about how I look, how I sound, what I do. No care. I am now free and wise. And I think back to myself when I was in my 30s and in my 40s and in my 50s and my 20s, and about the things that I did not do because I was worried about people's perception and people's judgment, and the regret that I would feel because I felt that holding this video camera or this phone and taking a video is going to make someone laugh, likely someone who's probably never done that before. Because if I take a step into becoming an entrepreneur, I might actually fail, and people are going to, point at me and probably, say, look at her, she's failed, or she didn't do well. When you're, as they say, the woman in the arena, you're the person fighting and trying. So try this technique, but truly regret is almost always around the things that you did not do. The next one is, actually, there is a book by Shonda Rhimes that's called Years of Yes. And it talks about all the roles that we play as women. And this is one of the biggest challenges. And actually, my co-founder is a wife and a mother and is an extremely hardworking, entrepreneur. And I can see, I'm not married, nor do I have children. And I can see how we're wiped out some days, when things are really challenging. But I can see with the support that she has from her family and husband, it's still so hard. You're a mother, you're a wife, you're a friend, you're this and that. And so this is why, going back to what I had said before, it is so important for us to all participate in creating our ecosystem of workplace and of entrepreneurship in a way that works for us as women, because this is the nature of who we are. And giving birth and being a mom should not hinder your career ambitions if that is what you're meant to do. So check out that book. It's actually quite an interesting one. And then the one before last is Perfectionism. And here, I think this is something that a lot of women pride themselves with. And I, for one, was always kind of, quite proud about the fact that I'm a perfectionist. And in some ways, it was useful because there's that attention to detail and doing good work. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, it is the enemy of productivity. And sometimes subconsciously, what we're doing is actually protecting ourselves from getting out of our comfort zone and getting into that discomfort and taking the risk. And we conceal that with perfectionism. And I'm sure so many of you can relate to my past experiences of, I want to do this, but it's not ready yet. And it needs to be perfect. And I haven't done that. And I haven't practiced this. And, you've got a million reasons. And in your head, they are all valid. But here's a little thing about entrepreneurship and about making it, is that never wait until it's perfect. It actually doesn't work for two reasons. Number one, it's never going to be perfect at the outset. It's always going to be work in progress. And number two, you're going to miss the boat. You just, it's just going to, that's going to be the case. It's all about agility and moving fast. And then one, which I'm actually going to spend a little bit of time on, but this is a whole module in our F-Force Business Guide course. So we speak about access to capital because it's one of the most challenging areas. Only 2% of venture capital money, which is, money of, the VCs that specialize in investing in high growth, in growing businesses, only 2% goes to women. And the numbers are staggering. It's about $1.7 trillion. That is the difference between what we get and what male-led businesses get. And it's directly correlated to the fact that there are very, very few women in VCs. 9% of VC professionals are women. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't raise, that doesn't mean that we don't have access to capital, but it just means that we need that much more support to understand this space, to understand the pockets where we can access capital, to understand how you can ready your business. So in the course, we talk about how to prepare for it. What kind of capital should you be looking, should you actually raise money or should you bootstrap? What kind of investors should you be looking at? Because at every stage of the business, there's a different type of investor. And many of you probably know this, how to create your pitch deck, but more importantly, also when you bring the money in, what happens? How do you work with investors, which is not necessarily always a hard thing, but it's one where one needs to really get the right guidance and get the right advice, because you're bringing in new stakeholders into your business who will ultimately have a say. And so this is another one. But having said that, the scenarios are not, doom and gloom, and we've come a long way, and we have come, strides from where we were in the past. And I think that we're living at a time that couldn't be better for us. I'll take that back. It could be better. And actually we still have miles to go in order to get to where we want to go. But considering the history of women, in entrepreneurship and all of that, there is so much awareness that is out there. We have far more role models who we are seeing IPOing in the stock market and taking their businesses public. And so that relatability, that is so important, because our mind works that way. Oftentimes, if you don't see, apologies, I'm getting a little bit of a beeping noise, but oftentimes if you don't see something happening and something being achieved by someone who you can relate to, your mind kind of limits your beliefs and tells you that that's not something you can achieve. And I think today we've got a lot of women who are doing amazing things. We've got a lot of communities and pockets of communities of women in this space that one can access. And this is why we're so passionate about building our own community at F-Force. And very importantly is that within this space, it's not about being born an entrepreneur or being born with certain skills. This is actually all learnable. And it's just about, having that commitment and, playing the part and putting in the effort, as we spoke a little bit earlier. So we're coming into the end of our I'm getting a lot of beeping and I don't want to take the volume off. However, actually, I am going to, let me go back into sharing my screen. Okay, so thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope you found a lot of value, but I do want to take you through a number of other things before we wrap up. So one of the reasons that I started the F-Force Business Guide course is to address so many of these challenges, and actually to take women, because it's a women-only program, through a 7-week course that takes place on a weekly basis, once a week, where we spend 90 minutes together. And during those 90 minutes, I take you through these modules that you see on a weekly basis. We do it live, so you have the opportunity to ask all the questions that you have about the module at the end of the session, and we get an expert guest to actually speak to us. Sometimes it's an investor, actually, and we've got some amazing ones lined up, an investor to tell you their perspective in terms of fundraising. Sometimes it's a branding expert, sometimes it's a marketing expert, but people who actually understand startups and people who actually have done it themselves. So we're not going to talk to a marketing expert who, needs $1 million budget, because that's not useful. So it's about also people who understand that journey of entrepreneurship. And so our first cohort is almost full. It's on the 11th of May, but we're opening up one very, very soon. And the modules that we cover are thinking of becoming an entrepreneur. So all the mindset and the toolbox that you require in order to, become an entrepreneur, which is linked to the next one, which is sustaining pressure, how to become an optimal person, an optimal entrepreneur. What it is that you need to do in order to really achieve what you want to achieve, sustain pressure, and then taking you through building an idea. So taking the idea from that into execution, your business plan, your, validating the markets, building a minimum viable product, how to start small and test the market. We go through all of that. Raising capital, which I just took you through. And then talking about the brand a little bit. And this is where I was telling you guys where you cut the noise. How do you actually tell the story, and how do you build a community, and how do you build that loyalty, and how do you really cut through the noise? And then the last couple of modules, we talk about people. And if there are two things, and everybody, who runs a business or has been, not necessarily even your startup, would know that one of the most consuming and challenging elements of running a business is the people and people management and fundraising. So we go through that. We talk about the right culture. We talk about how you hire people when you don't have, or how you hire and attract and retain talent when your resources are scarce. And we talk about the difference between managing and between leading. And then the last course that we have is one where we speak about guidance and support. Part of it is the mentorship, but another part of it is actually your board, whether it's advisory, whether it's a board of directors, and how to make the most. Because what I find, and this is my personal experience and one of my big learnings, is that we use boards as a reporting mechanism where you actually are meant to extract actually the advice and the benefit and the support from them. And so what is it that you need to do for the course? What's the investment? The investment is your commitment to show up on a weekly basis for 90 minutes, to spend that hour, or more during the week outside of the course itself and the live session, going through some readings. It's actually minimal and it's not very taxing. And what I wanted actually to share is that while the course is live on Zoom, actually it all gets recorded and it can be watched. So for those who are in time zones that are a little difficult. And then, of course, you will want to have that desire to work, to create change, and to be part of a community of women and to build those relationships. And us being together for 7 weeks is, a way for us to also build that connectivity amongst each other and the willingness to take the first step. And if you guys haven't, and you are going to be in my class and in my cohort, I will make sure that you take the first step. The course itself is $2,000 for the 7 weeks. And for UAE-based individuals, we actually have started working with a partner who is offering 3 installments for UAE-based candidates. So from today, if you go to the website and actually register, you'd be able to pay over 3 installments over 3 months. And we are going to extend that to other regions as and when, but not for the time being. So one more thing, and we should close on time. The promise is that you come out of this ready, if you put in the work, ready to actually start with this journey, or to take your business into a more structured, more professional, and to, a place where it can start growing. It's a space where we can assure you that you're going to feel safe and comfortable to ask any question. And no matter where you sit, in the spectrum, it's a space for you to be able to not feel intimidated and ask the questions. It's also a place where, as I said, you connect to other women, and you build relationships, and you build that relatability, and hopefully, achieve what you're meant to achieve. We're done. The last bit that I wanted to share with everyone who is on this course, or rather on this webinar, which is not offered to anyone else, is that we're offering you $200 off the cost of the course for the next 48 hours if you want to join us. As I said, one of our cohorts is almost full, and another one is opening up on the 26th of May. It's now open, and as soon as it is done, which already is underway, we will close it. The other thing that we are offering is that I would love to thank you with, is a one-on-one mentorship session with me that you can use for a period of 6 months from the time you get onto the course to, you know, whenever else that you'd like to do it. And that is basically what we'd like to leave you with. You can follow F-Force, you can go to our website, you can check out the course, you can check out all the information, and you can reach out to us on these handles for any questions that you have. So take a screenshot of this, and if you have any questions, we're here to answer all of your questions. And I hope that you found this a little useful. Maybe you know, if it does the job for, you know, just a little bit, or make you think or have some takeaways, then, you know, I will have achieved my fulfillment for the day. So, Andra.
Wow, what a class.
We need to hear from our guests, but also I'd love to use the next few minutes to answer questions, because I do want to get to some of the questions that you guys have asked.
Exactly. So we will do now a Q&A. If anyone has any questions on the course, on the F-Force Business Guide course, please type them in the Q&A box so we can see them all. And then let's go. We have lots of questions, by the way. I don't know how to tell you that people love it. And like, I just wanted to message, like, take your time, like they love it. We want to answer all the questions.
We're here.
Okay.
I have a lot of time if you guys want to chat. So
yeah. Okay, so let's start, because it's a couple of them. Somebody is asking, if Modis did not close, do you think you would have gotten into the NFT space?
I don't know. That's such a good question. Yeah. I don't know, but I'll actually answer it with a story as to how this started. So the Modis closed, and then 7 months later, Hajar and I, my co-founder, started thinking again about the business. And we had a slide in our business plan and in our pitch deck that talked about our community and how, you know, the love that we received was, honestly, until today, when I talk about them and how they supported us when we closed, I get very emotional. And so there was a slide where we were saying, okay, we need to engage with them on another level. We need to actually, you know, take that social media one-way street where we get the benefit as a brand of, you know, the fact that, you know, they build our brand with us and we give them, you know, the love and the mission and the values, but they're not sharing value. How do we change that? And we tried a lot of things. We tried to think about technologies like gamification, and nothing made sense. And then when the NFT technology surfaced, it was super clear for us to that basically this is the way that we're going to take the engagement, and we're going to share the value, but take the engagement to the next level. I'm not going to say too much on this because I'm going to be taking up so much time, but I encourage you to go to queenmode.nft. So Queen Mode is our NFT collection's name, and on social media, on Instagram, it's at queenmode.nft. We did a live yesterday, my co-founder and I, and we talk all about this story and how it started.
Okay, thank you, Gislan. Then we have another question. Somebody was asking you, did you ever feel like an imposter at the beginning?
Yes, and still, by the way, and I'm not bothered by it, and I'm going to actually give you a different perspective about imposter. So imposter syndrome is something we feel, and actually it becomes unhealthy if you are continuing to feel as an imposter in your role, which you have been doing for a while, and still you're not attributing the success to you, right? That's when it becomes unhealthy. If you've been working so hard, you're, you know, for 10 years, and until the 10th year in the role that you play, you feel that, you know, it's luck and it's a fluke, then that is unhealthy. However, it is absolutely normal that you feel like a little bit of an imposter when you're doing something new. And especially if you're doing it well. If you're getting into a new space, there is that level of I don't know this and I don't have the confidence. And if something works out, you'll be like, okay, maybe this is just happening now because I'm trying it, it's luck. I did it for the first time. But once you've done it 10 times, then you need to start, overcoming that imposter. But I think that there is a tiny way with which imposter can actually be a normal thing and can be something that pushes you.
Thank you, Gislan. Someone's asking, what roadblocks did you face when you first launched the Modist or even the Queen Mode NFTs? How did you approach these roadblocks?
A lot of roadblocks. In entrepreneurship, I think any entrepreneur will tell you every day you have so many, as I said, you're just facing challenges all the time. Let me talk a little bit about fundraising, because it's something that a lot of women will relate to. We were pitching an idea of a business that is solving a problem, a shopping experience. So if I tell you, and you're a woman, and I tell you that I want an evening dress that's not strapless, and does not have a slit, and it's not transparent, does not have lace, and is not sleeveless, you will know that it's so hard for me to find a long sleeve, modest, beautiful evening dress that's on trend, and that I will find a lot of it. Now come pitch that to a man. They'll be like, but why can't they shop in this place? And we'd be like, because they have to go through so much, because there is no style inspiration, because they feel excluded, because it's frustrating, because. But if they've not gone through, that challenge, then they don't relate to it. And so this is, for example, one of the challenges that we faced in fundraising, other than the fact that there's a lot of biases around, women in leadership positions and how well we perform, and all of those, biases that exist. So that's one of the things.
Okay, I think this one, what you just said, I think it relates to one of the questions. One of the questions was saying, what is the current reality of giving women access to funding? What are the biggest issues and challenges? And I know you touch a lot on the course, and just now you mentioned this is a big challenge into the women world. But if you want to add anything else, feel free.
Yeah, Andra. So it is the state is not great, right? However, it's better than it was. As I said, we get a tiny piece of funding, but because there's so much awareness, then VCs are becoming more aware that there are opportunities where they're missing out because they're not investing in female-led businesses. And I think that, and this is something we touch on in the course, is it's about networking, it's about pitching, it's about understanding your business, and it's understanding the investor's perspective, understanding what is this investor looking for, and are they the right one for you? I'll give you a very small example. So many entrepreneurs, when they're starting the business, me included, don't know that different investors have different mandates, which means they focus on different things. An investor can focus on fashion, another one on gaming, another one on Africa, and one on women, one on the beginning of the journey, and one on third year of the journey. And what happens is that you end up speaking to everyone because you don't know, and you're wasting your time, and you're not researching, the mandate. So that's one of the things, for example, that is a challenge and that we address. But for women, it is, challenging, but improving.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you. I was wondering what happened. It just disappeared. Okay.
No problem. Okay. I want us to cover another question, which is actually related to our course. And when is the next session for the first module?
The first cohort?
I believe he wants to know when do we start the course. So we have a course starting on May 11. That will be the first course, and then we will be having, as we mentioned earlier, another course starting on May 26.
Correct.
So that will be again our first class for the second cohort.
Exactly.
And then thank you so much for the talk. Just wanted to know how it will be personalized, since we don't have the same idea to execute. I think this relates to the course as well.
Yeah. So look, when it comes to starting a business and building your business plan and executing, and so much of what we cover is standard. What I can tell you is that a lot of what I cover is for businesses who want to grow, right? Businesses that want to grow. It doesn't mean that it doesn't apply to someone who wants to start a very small business, but it just means that it covers much more than just that. But when it comes to being personalized, I think there are two things. One is when you're working on your idea, you're focused on your idea. Of course, there is that element of Q&A at the end of the session where if there is a question relating to something that concerns you, you can bring it up, but it's not going to be, the whole course is personalized, because no course is like that. And then the one-on-one session that happens is an opportunity to actually dive into certain questions that you have specifically about something that you are building yourself.
Thank you, Ghizlan. Related to the efforts program as well, somebody is curious to know if we help with building website and social media presence.
No, we don't. What we do is we help in terms of enable you to think of the strategy and to how to go about it and so on. But we don't execute anything that you need to execute. We share with you, for example, some frameworks and some tools and some coursework that will help you in creating content and the things that you need to execute on, but we don't do it ourselves. But I think that this is going to be, the exciting part is that our community is going to be connected in a private Facebook group. And that group is where all the conversations happen. And honestly, what I know from my own experience is that is actually where you start sharing resources and, the right suppliers and the right third-party, providers that work well for startups. That's really the place where you kind of, share all the learnings.
Amazing. Nefel is asking us how many ladies would participate in each cohort.
So maximum of 25 per cohort is what we're doing. We want to keep it intimate. We want to keep it small. So it's not going to be large.
We have a question from Amina. Knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently when you first started out?
Yes, and I'm doing them differently now. The first thing when it comes to the business is try and make your business very lean. So to give you an example, with the Modest, we used to buy stock and we used to ship, and that was so expensive. And so the money you would bring into the business through investors is going into areas that don't grow the business. So think about how lean the business is going to be and how little your goal is to survive on as little as possible, especially at the beginning until you prove the concept. That's when it becomes exciting for investors to invest in you, is when they see that you are super lean. I'm going to give you another inside information about where I am today. In my first version, when I launched the Modest, I had 27 people. The Modest itself was different in a business. It required that. But right now, we've got a team of 5. We are hiring. We're bringing in more people. But just to give you an example, another thing and another learning, which I think is very important for anyone who's going into entrepreneurship is, and this is very hard, but do not attach yourself, your worth to your business. And I know this is hard, that's why it's work in progress, but it's so important that you understand that your identity is not just what you do, right? You yourself as a worthy human being are worthy, are complete, and what you do is in addition to that. And again, I say that this is work that needs to happen, but you want to make sure whether you succeed or whether things don't work out and you have to take a different route, that you don't associate the outcome to who you are as an individual.
That's beautifully said. I think she covered this. Somebody is curious to know how you started Modest from the first idea to the first action, but you did cover a bit of it. And for those joining us in the course, you will know the full story. And then next, yeah, they would like to know where they can find like-minded entrepreneurs, we mean, if there is any specific account they can join or anywhere they would interact. And I actually replied in private, and I said that we do have this closed Facebook group for those that are joining us in the course. And that's how you can actually access that group. Otherwise, of course, follow us on Instagram, and we have a beautiful community of supportive women.
Yeah.
How do I manage having 2 startups, as I have a writing movement and a second one that is being under progress, which is in the culinary field? The second one will be the first of its kind in the MENA region, and I would like to know, how do I get there and not actually ace one business over the other? And I think you would be great answering this question, since you're managing now how many? 3 businesses?
I'll tell you, I think that you have to be, it really depends, right? So if the first business is doing well and is, for example, important because of financial reasons, then it makes sense that you start the other one. Or if it's, something you're very passionate about and you want to keep it, then I understand. There is no two way around the fact that it is very challenging to run one business, let alone 2. And I think that you need to be very honest with yourself as to why you would do 2 and what is the reason. And if it's valid, then, do it. It's going to be challenging, but know at some point once they both grow, because naturally, if you're running a business, unless one is going to stay stagnant, but as they grow, you need to have a plan of what you're going to do. Are you planning on maybe bringing someone to manage one of the businesses, or are you planning to get it to a certain point and do something with it? Whatever that is, just know that your bandwidth is going to increasingly reduce as you grow these businesses. And also just remember that there's something that we as entrepreneurs don't do really well, which is the Pareto Rule, which is the 20-80. Sometimes, actually, almost always, 20% of the effort produces 80% of the results. Right? So we've got that. And, whilst it's important for us as entrepreneurs to try different things and all of that, there's a balance. And so what are you trying to achieve? Is it a financial outcome? Maybe it can be achieved by one business. So it really depends on the circumstances of your business and why you've got both of them.
Thank you, Ghizlan. We have a question from Mariam. She is now working in a governmental job, but it's a routine job. So she wants to start something and become an entrepreneur, but she doesn't have just one focused interest. She has many concepts all over the place in her mind, so she hasn't stepped further. What would be the first step she needs to take?
I mean, you have to put in a little bit more work on the ideas that you have. So let's say, I don't know, I mean, you can't have 100 ideas, because then there's a challenge there. But let's say you have 5, right, ideas that are good in your view. Take those ideas and actually start working on them. Start putting some effort into researching each of the ideas. And actually, you will find that as you work more on each of them, as you start putting skin on the bones, as they say, you will find that some of them you're naturally, finding it easier to take that plan and take that research to the next level. And others, you may lose interest, or you might find that it's not important. And go back to what I said before. Why are you doing it, right? What is it? What is the reason, and which one is going to give you more fulfillment? And then think also commercially, which one, start working on some maybe numbers, which one seems like it would be the right one commercially for you to pursue. So I think do a little bit of homework, because if you just stay at the surface level of good ideas, they're just going to be like that, exciting, but there's no depth in you understanding, the viability of these ideas.
Thank you. What meetups or local entrepreneur events or accelerators would you recommend that have helped you grow?
That have helped me grow?
Yes.
So I'm trying to think. So, I'm someone who I at least learned to kind of make that first step into connecting with people that I feel are like-minded to me. And so I have not been part of any of the formal incubators or any of, you know, those entities. But for example, if I connect or meet someone and I find that they are, you know, in a similar journey or they've started a business, I would connect with them. And if I find that there are synergies, I might start a WhatsApp group with 3 or 4 women. And, you know, that's how you start building the network slowly. I think that even on social media, if you follow accounts like ours or accounts that are about women in entrepreneurship, even, you know, in that space, you can probably connect. Not ideal, but these are this is at least how I've done it.
Thank you. That's a good question. So is the Queen Mode NFT an entry to F-Force, or did I misunderstand that?
So no, well, there's no direct answer here. So actually, from a formally speaking, and as a business, Queen Mode is actually linked to the modist. So if you buy an NFT of Queen Mode, you have a number of utilities and it unlocks certain value and access to a certain, like a members club, if you will, and it gives you some perks on the modist. Now, whether we, you know, do something around F-Force with it, or we offer F-Force to women who want it, who carry the NFT, it's something I'm completely open to. And actually, my co-founder and I had this conversation. So, but it's not formal. It's not done at a formal level.
On the NFT topic as well, do you have a Discord for your NFT?
We will soon. On the NFT, for the person asking about the Discord, please follow us on Twitter. So it's again queenmode.nft on Twitter, and that's where we will announce the Discord. We only announced Queen Mode a week ago, so we're now sharing more about it.
You're welcome, Leila. She said, thank you for replying my question. Now, back on our course, they are asking if they need to prepare anything ahead. Will it be wise for them to start reading something, prepare anything?
Yeah. Minimal. Honestly, if you want to do some reading just on startups and things like that, you can, but the course is meant to take you from beginning of, you know, what is it? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? What kind of mindset should you have to the idea, and just, you know, take you through the whole journey. So I did it purposely this way, where we can spend time packed with, you know, value together and answering your question, and where the work that you get afterwards is, you know, something that is up to you to do, because it's so important. I mean, this is about, you know, mature women who are ready to actually take that step and, you know, explore this space and do something about it. So there is no, it's not meant to be taxing on your time. And a lot of women who actually registered are, you know, working, they have careers, they are, you know, working moms. So it's meant to add value without being taxing on your time.
And we have one of our participants in the course who is now live on the webinar, and she's saying, hi, Leah. She's saying, I signed up for the course and would actually love to get some NFT knowledge, maybe a full module.
on your one-on-one, let's talk about NFTs. But, you know, actually, in all seriousness, I am, first of all, you can actually go to We Are F-Force. Do we still have that? No, we don't have that course there. You can go to YouTube and, you know, you'll find a video that I had put on NFTs. But in all seriousness, if you go to Queen Mode, one of the things that actually we do is education around NFTs. So we understand that this is such a new world, and we want women to be able to make the choice if they want to be part of it or not. And so part of what we do is share knowledge through videos, through posts, through lives that we do. So follow us and you will be able to acquire a lot of knowledge in that space.
Amazing. I think we can answer one more question before we close the session. Okay. Let me just and it goes like this. How to ensure the effective decision-making in an ever-changing information variables?
Good question. And there's a course. There is a whole module about it. I think one of your skills as an entrepreneur is around navigating uncertainty and making decisions around uncertainty. And what I can tell you is that making the wrong decision is better than not making a decision. So one of the things you learn as an entrepreneur is just to decide and go and be okay with mistakes. It's not about being negligent or about negligence, but it's about not being paralyzed with the fact that you have to have all the data and you have to have all the clarity before making decision. And so at every point, you just take whatever it is that you have and you navigate and you make the decisions, and you only get better by taking more decisions. So actually, it really is like a muscle. You know, part of it is confidence in yourself by, you know, trying constantly. And another part is just exercising, you know, your brain to think through whatever you have at that time and just execute on it. It's, you know, I'm simplifying it, and of course we all go through it, and that's the point where you sometimes also can ask for advice. I can tell you, for example, that with us, me and my co-founder always consult. Sometimes we ask people that we trust. Sometimes we ask investors who are within that particular space. So of course you kind of lean in on the resources that you have, any resources that you have, but you do have to take decisions, and sometimes they're wrong, and that is okay.